Hello everyone, my name is Bin Wang, and today I'm gonna talk about the open source. First, what is the open source? The open source is when the programmer writes the software, not just give others to use the software publicly, and also show your application source code for the public. And the purpose of open source is to learning to others to continually upgrade because everyone can modify and change the data. And with the development of the internet, the open source has been widely used in internet, and the participants need a lot of update computer source code. And open source improved the quality of production model, communication, pipeline, and interactive community gradually. And then a new copyright software license, domain name, and customer were created, which is open source software. The open source software is the software that under the open source license to self-grant free software used to use the contact the rights of source code. And it also guarantees the users to modify, copy, and the rights to distribute. Open source software mainly distributed in the development by the programmer team in the world, and by the same time, some universities, government agencies, contractors, society, and commercial companies also develop it. Next is the development of the open source. The open source is network revolution brought about by the information technology development for the future with an open innovation. And the common future of 2 and future and people-oriented innovation party in the software industry, and which is a typical and vivid notation. Open source software in history with Unix. The internet connection is very close, and many different hardware needed to support in those systems, and source distribution is only the practical way to cross-platform portability. Now, there are three main uses of open source. First is reduce risk, and the second is business, and last one is repair bugs. We're gonna through those three, and first is the reduce risk. The customer who own the open source code can control those toys to survival of their business. And when an open source product developer to rise prices, increase the difficulty to receive information, or use some method that makes customer dissatisfied. A different organization will use the source code begin to develop new products to solve problem of original institution. And as a result, the customers can maintain by yourself or get someone else to improve it in order to achieve their requirements. Next one is the business. Some studies have shown that the open source software has great advantage of reliability than other commercial software. Next is the repair bugs. And in this picture, they have many companies like Google, Android, Firefox. The proprietary software has a lot of disadvantages, holding many bugs. Open source for modifying and understanding the work principle of product is very important. So in large software companies, just like I said, only few people can access to the source code. And such a person who is able to access the source code use can directly connect. Able to access the source code for repair security is very important in those large companies. So they have some advantages of open source. First is the infinite freedom. Open source provide users with infinite freedom so they can make the software depend on their own business needs. Large organizations also can cut down expenses and human cost from the customer behavior. Users faulties and improve in return. Open source software packages will also be a contribution. And it is impossible in the traditional proprietary software development. As follows, the open source is more flexibility than the proprietary software in the aspect of copyright licensing. It can generally reduce more installation cost and time. Library's process of procurement agency is more favorable, and it also gives more freedom to users to install the software. In conclusion, the open source is very useful in our daily life, and open source plays an important role in the company and government, and it can have a positive effect on people's life because we can get the information and we can modify that, copy that, and change the data sometimes, and also we can create our own system, and the others can help me to help you to create your information and make it more perfect. And in the future, open source will involve people's life greatest and create a new life for all the people in the world. And that is my reference. Thanks for your watching. Bye bye.